you think about preparing for the next homeschool year, you usually think about things like choosing your curriculum, planning out your year on your calendar, that sort of thing. For the last handful of summers, I have taken part of the summer to do what I call professional development. Catchy term. And it's exactly what it sounds like. I am developing the profession of my role as a homeschool mom. So today I thought I would share with you the whys of what I do, or why I do it, and the hows, and some resources that I use for it. Now, I've mentioned this in the past in real life, and almost every time I've gotten the reaction of, why? Why would you? Because isn't that part of homeschooling? Is that everyone says you don't need to have a degree in education or in X topic in order to do it. Well, they're not wrong, but it's I don't encourage my kids to do the minimum, and so I don't encourage myself to do the minimum either. Now, for the first several years of homeschooling, I didn't really do this in any kind of a formal way, and just kind of pick and choose here and there randomly. But as my kids got older, I started realizing how important it was that I needed for me to make this a little more formal. So, whys. Number one, because it's my job. If you worked out of the home as a doctor or a teacher or an engineer or whatever, you would have to continue to learn about your job. Taking continuing education classes, workshops, that sort of thing. Well, this is my job as a my job is to homeschool my kids. So it makes sense that I'm going to continue to educate myself on that. Number two, we forget the details. I don't know about you, but there's a lot that I have forgotten about what I learned in school. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I've forgotten. And I'm sure that's true for you too. Number three, sometimes we just didn't learn the big ideas. In high school, I had to take my 4 science credits. But rather than taking physics, which I had no interest in, I doubled up my senior year and took anatomy and physiology and genetics. So I completely didn't learn physics at all. I took it in college, one semester of it. I got some basics, but when I went to teach physics 2 years ago, there was a lot I had to refresh my brain on, and a lot I just had to learn. And raise your hand if you ever got past World War II in history through school. Or especially any substantial study. We hit bits and pieces, Cold War, basically, because when I was in school, we were still in the Cold War, pretty much, up to high school. So, I did some bits and pieces of that, but other than that, we never got past World War II-ish, right around there. So, there's just a lot that you didn't learn in school. And number 4, it's a great way for me to demonstrate learning and lifelong learning to my kids, besides, rather than just showing them that schooling is something to check the box. Yeah, I like to demonstrate that. So, what do I study? Well, it changes a little bit each year, but my big things that I try to cover are something from history, something from science, and something related to homeschooling itself. So, let me start right there. What I learn in my professional development doesn't always necessarily directly tie into it. Or it's not going to necessarily give me details that I'm going to use in a class, but it's more of just kind of giving me context for what we're going to be learning. Now, sometimes it's more specific, and I'll get to that down when I start talking about what resources to use. But sometimes it's just a way for me to get some context to what we're learning. So, history, science, and like I said, it's homeschool. And those can be things like webinars from different museums, webinars. When we studied astronomy, I did webinars from NASA, different things about record keeping or philosophies or methods. For history this year, we will do Middle Ages with my boys, and then my daughter will be doing 20th century world history. So I am listening to a book or a lecture series called 1066, the year that changed everything, and then Turning Points in Modern History. Those will be for my history requirements. High school record keeping, as we gear up for 9th grade, mostly going through materials from Lee Benz, but a couple other websites as too. Brushing up on my geometry skills, because that's what Elizabeth will do this year for for math and chemistry. Same reason. So, maybe I've convinced you, but you're not sure where to start. Well, obviously, there's books. And, yeah, I can't recommend specific books because, there's thousands of books available for you, depending on what you're doing. But what I want to say is make sure that you don't disregard things like textbooks and nonfiction that's geared toward kids and teens. Yes, it's easy. It's going to be below what you're capable of doing. But if your goal is just to gather information and increase what you know, that's a great way to do it, because it's going to be very basic. So all your mind isn't going to be working on. It'll be easy for your mind to read so you can spend more energy comprehending, if that makes sense. So don't disregard that. Walk into the children's section of your library and find what topic you want to find and grab some books. It's a great way to do it. Number 2, Khan Academy. If you don't know what Khan Academy is, it's a free website that was originally designed, it was just math, and it was designed for the founders' nephews, I believe, who were homeschoolers. I think that's right. But there's so much available on there. So this summer I'm working through the geometry and I'm working through the chemistry. I am not worrying about getting all of it. It's more just exposure to the topics, refreshing my mind of some of it. So that way, Elizabeth we're outsourcing the chemistry, both classes, the chemistry and geometry, but I still want to be available to assist where I can. 3, documentaries. You know I'm a big fan of these. Again, if you can't find, it doesn't have to be specifically on what you'll be studying this year. We're studying Middle Ages, so 1066 is kind of late, kind of right in the middle of it all, but it's something that gives me just some context into the larger, gives me some context into the larger scheme of what's going on. Documentaries are great. Check your library. Netflix, of course. Amazon. YouTube even has, now you have to be careful. Disclaimer, be very mindful that you're choosing one that you know who made it, because there's a lot out there. It's not going to be accurate. So just be mindful of checking the description bar, Googling for the title, and see who made things. Number 4, one of my favorites, Coursera. Coursera is one I used to freshen up for my physics a couple years ago. And the one I took was out of, if you don't know what Coursera is, it's a free website that puts college lectures or they're kind of college level classes for you free. They're really good. They will usually have quizzes to go along with them. So for physics, I found one. I think the guy was out of Minnesota, Michigan. I forget. If it's still available, I will link it down below. He was fantastic, and we ended up using several of his demonstrations during our school year on physics because they were just some great, clear, well done ones. So Coursera is great. You can, they're online, but you can use them through an iPad or your phone. There's all kinds of other open course software. If you just Google open course software, you will find ones from different universities. And so there's some great free options available for you. And you know what, before I go any further, I will sometimes take, just in general in life, take the idea that if I don't do something in completion, then I failed at it. And so if I feel like I'm not going to be able to complete it, I just don't even start it, and then I'm not a failure. Don't feel that way about this. If you open up the physics class on Coursera and you watch half of them, well, that's still more knowledge than you had before you started. So it's fine. What's it matter if you have completed it or not? The goal is just to increase your knowledge before the year starts. Number 5 is one of my favorites, and that's the great courses. The 2 lectures I mentioned about the history, 1066 and Turning Points, are both from great courses. Again, these are college lectures that are sold through the teaching company's Great Courses, the Great Courses website. They are fantastic. There is a subscription model that you can do that will stream through an app that on your TV. You can download audio ones. If you subscribe to Audible, you can get credits. You can use credits to get the audio versions. If you have Hoopla, if your library gets Hoopla, check there. We can get several lectures from there. We can only download 4 a month, but still better than paying. Check your library for DVDs and for the audio CDs as well, because there are a lot that are out there. My library doesn't have a big selection, but through Interlibrary alone, throughout the state, there's a lot more that I can get. You know what? I didn't even talk about like homeschool things, resources, really. Like I said, if you have a high schooler, consider checking out Lee Binns. She has a website. She has books. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get several of her books free through Amazon. Check your library, of course. So that's a great one for that. The Well-Trained Mind, I think, is an excellent book, whether or not you are a classical educating family. I think there's still a lot of information that you can learn and a lot of great ideas. Brave Writer, check out her podcast. And I don't know if she still does Periscopes on Periscope. Is that even still a thing? I don't know. And her YouTube channel, she is wonderful. She obviously talks a lot about the Brave Writing curriculum, but she also has a lot of good information and inspiration and encouragement on just different areas of homeschooling. She has some really good high school things, lots, of course, in the language arts area. So she's a great resource. Julie Bogart, if you want to name. YouTube videos, of course. Check out various homeschoolers on there for whatever topic you may be. And there's lots on organizing and methods and all of that stuff where moms tell you their own experiences. So I just encourage you to pick 1 or 2 topics that you can learn about more this summer and get started. Don't worry about if you can't finish it all. Don't worry about covering it all. You can't cover everything. So just pick something, poke around, find what you enjoy, and have fun learning. Thanks for watching.